Hello. Hello, we are going live. Slowly but surely, everything is connecting. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. This is the first time, truly appreciated. Second time, third time, fifth time, millionth time. Great to see you again. This is the Mindful Moment brought to you from Dantian Energy. We meet 3 times a day. We meet at 9 o'clock, 12:30, and 7:30 to have a moment of mindfulness in these particularly chaotic times. Shout out to everyone tuning in live. Thank you. Let's get started. So this is a mindful moment. They are about 30 minutes long, and they consist of an introduction, then a topic of discussion, then a guided meditation, and then we close each class with a Zen koan, which is a riddle to give us food for thought moving forward. We begin each session by setting intentions. An intention is a purpose for the practice. It can be a dedication, a mantra, or just a general inclination. And we set these intentions with a deep breath in. Long breath out. Lovely. And I also like to start each class with this valuable quote: "The real meditation is how you live your life," by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And it ties in very nicely to our koan, or actually teaching from yesterday, which goes a little something like this. When asked why he practiced Zen, the student says, "Because I intend to become a Buddha." His teacher picked up a brick and started polishing it. The student asked, "What are you doing?" The teacher replied, "I'm trying to make a mirror." "How can you make a mirror by polishing a brick?" said the student. "How can you become a Buddha by doing Zazen?" If you understand sitting Zen, then you know Zen is not about sitting or lying down. If you want to learn sitting Buddha, know that sitting Buddha is without any fixed form. Do not use discrimination in the non-abiding Dharma. If you practice sitting Buddha, you must kill Buddha. If you are attached to sitting form, then you are not yet mastering an essential principle. And I think this story kind of highlights some really important concepts and teachings, and the similar ones to that the quote does from Jon Kabat-Zinn. And I think sitting meditation and daily practice is something I highly, highly recommend. I really highly recommend having a daily-ish practice. And if you want to know more about what daily-ish means, I recommend you checking out Dan Harris and 10% Happier. But in anything, and in particularly even in meditation, we can attach to things, right? And it might be the style of meditation, or it might be the time we do meditation, or maybe the location we meditate. And all of these things, if we ever lack them, can be perceived lack and then be a source of suffering. So our goal here is to bring a meditative mindset to everything we do, an unconditional acceptance of what is now, seeing life as it truly is. That's the aims of meditation. And any fixed form must be killed or let go. So that's my personal interpretation of this story or lesson. I would love to hear your personal interpretations as well, so feel free to share. And again, I would like to remind of our working definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a combination of awareness, equanimity, and concentration. Awareness is the recognition of existence. Equanimity is the unconditional acceptance of what is now. And concentration is the intention to keep in the mind's attention, awareness, and equanimity. So today's topic of discussion I've titled "The Nerve of Meditation." A little bit of humor there. To start it off, what it do? So how does meditation affect, this is specifically, we're looking at the nervous system. So throughout the circulatory system, it sends nerve signals to reduce inflammation. So meditation also lowers cortisol levels, it can lengthen attention span, it can regulate cravings, it can help improve sleep, and it can reduce pain. So all of these things are instances or things that meditation or mindfulness can help with. And I really like this picture right here. I think it's kind of a powerful representation of what maybe meditation can do. If we imagine the shark being the flight and our biological urges that are constantly, nature and animalistic and all that kind of stuff, those are our urges. Meditation is finding that pause and kind of working with these animals or these cravings within us. So now I would like to talk a little bit more about the biology, particularly the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. It has a right and left portion, as you can see. It's called the vagus nerve because it's vagrant. It wanders throughout all the organs of the body. And when people say trust your gut, a lot of times they're referring to this kind of sensation. It is also the queen of the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's a reminder that the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest. So that's the kind of chill out, relax, everything's good. It also communicates upstream, which is something really important. A lot of nerve signalings go from the brain down. The vagus nerve has the capability to communicate back to the brain. And what's also important is that breathing slows the heart rate. So when we're breathing slowly, we're stimulating the vagus nerve and we're slowing our heart rate, which has all sorts of biological effects. They found that vagal activity is strongest during the exhale, so that's when we get the deepest relaxation. And they've also found that the breathing pattern that stimulates the vagus nerve the best is 5 in and 5 out. So the vagus nerve is unique to mammals. It coordinates oxytocin networks, coordinates stronger immune system responses, as well as inflammation responses. Some research supports that you can also stimulate the vagus nerve through laughing, singing, humming, yoga, acupuncture, or even splashing the face with cold water. And research also supports that severing the vagus nerve results in lower levels of innate fear and a longer retention of a learned fear. So by stimulating the vagus nerve, we can actually lower our innate levels of fear and lower the retention of a learned fear. Pretty powerful stuff. So next I want to talk about the brain activity. So one important facet is that brain activity, positive and negative emotions actually look different in the brain. And this is really important because it means we can begin to explore the different ways experience our brain. As we continue to explore, we find stronger correlations between subjective reports and objective measures. Things like fMRIs and brain waves, but even things like heart rates and breathing rates. What we're finding is we can use these objective measures and correlate them with certain states of mind, whether that's happiness, sadness, anxiety, fear, whatever. Do all of these things, we're beginning to see a very strong correlation. Now here's what the research supports, and it's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. Changing the external environment does very little to change happiness. And I'll say that again because I think it's an important part. Changing external environments does very little to change your happiness. There seems to be within us, each one of us, almost a baseline happiness that is hardly ever altered by external environments. Significant life events such as injury or trauma can certainly have lasting impacts, but research supports that whenever possible, the brain will return to this relatively normal baseline. And this relatively normal baseline is the key phrase because it's your normal. We are automatically shaped to a level of happiness, and if we're one of the lucky ones in our lives who has, happiness, we may be happier our whole lives. Or if we're one of the unlucky ones who are shaped by our external environment, that doesn't bode for good outcomes. Thankfully, though, our interior landscapes can make big changes. If we focus on our interior landscape, it has been found to really profoundly affect the brain. And we're going to talk a little bit in the following slide about what those changes actually look like. So when we're talking about meditation, we're talking a lot about these two particular waves. One is a focused meditation wave, which is gamma wave, very fast wave, and those are going to be in meditations such as Tibetan, loving kindness, compassion, open monitoring, compassion, anything that has a deliberate, attentive control to it is going to be these faster brain waves. The more slower brain waves, the open waves, theta waves, these are going to be things like mindfulness and zazen type things. So when we're experiencing meditation, we're practicing meditation, what we're doing a lot of is manipulating these two brain waves and their activities. Next, I just wanted to talk about the particular brain regions affected by meditation. First one is the posterior cingulate, which lights up during impulsive behaviors such as thinking about ourselves, mind wandering, thinking about the future, choices, any moments where we're caught up in ourselves. This is significantly turned down, and especially in trained meditators. The amygdala gets turned down, which is responsible for a lot of, the fear response as well as intense emotions. Particularly right side for men, left side for women. The frontal lobe, which is the most highly evolved part of the brain, responsible for reasoning, planning, emotion, self-consciousness, and awareness. During meditation, the frontal cortex tends to go offline. The parietal lobe, this part of the brain, which is responsible for the surrounding world, orienting in space. During meditation, unsurprisingly, the parietal lobe turns down. So our sense of space, our sense of orientation in space actually does get distorted while we're meditating. Thalamus, which is the gatekeeper of the senses and the organs, focused attention becomes really kind of turned down to almost like a trickle, and very little sensory information starts going, including little information to your organs. And then last is the reticular formation, which is your brain stem. That's a lot of the fight or flight, a lot of the survival mechanisms, and this meditating dials back the arousal signal of this reticular formation. So one way to think of it is meditation is like putting on glasses so you can see the world more clearly. Or another way I like to think about it is I like to think of it as if you're taking sunglasses off to see a movie more clearly. I feel like that's a more apt metaphor towards how the experience is in reality. Great. And next, I just want to talk about neuroplasticity, a really important concept in relation to meditation. So in essence, neuroplasticity is our repeated exposures shape our brain. What we practice becomes stronger. About 47% of a day is spent daydreaming or caught up in experience, and that is a very conservative estimate. I've seen far higher numbers. And that creates a default mode network, which is the pattern our brain defaults to. And for the vast majority of the time, that is excellent. That gets us done, that gets us through everything that we need. However, what happens is eventually we start running up against patterns that no longer suit this default mode network. And then it becomes time to kind of pave new paths of compassion, as I like to put it. So research supports that mindfulness meditation can increase brain matters in 5 regions, and that's after just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation. Another study I found said that participants showed improvement of up to 15% growth in certain brain regions, and this is after only 8 weeks of 12 minutes a day. So after only 8 weeks, 12 minutes a day of mindfulness meditation, they saw increases in certain brain areas of up to 15%. And they actually saw decreases in other areas such as the amygdala, which is responsible for fear and intense emotion. Awesome. Oh, and finally, I think this is just a really nice way to kind of summarize the whole concept, is that your brain is a river, not a rock. It's not this fixed thing that's a computing machine or whatever. It is this constantly evolving, constantly changing, never wants the same thing. Things being fed in, things being shot out, constantly molding, and vast, I don't know, just flow of whatever that kind of creates our reality. So I think viewing the brain as a river versus a rock is a more apt metaphor. So now it is time to begin our guided meditation. Today our meditation is going to be a body scan, which is a cornerstone of mindfulness practice. So let's begin by finding ourselves into a comfortable position. Just settling in. And you may want to close your eyes or keep them slightly open, allowing the spine to lift. Let the shoulders soften, and just begin to settle into a state of relaxation. Today we will be practicing a body scan. Taking a full, deep breath in, and a long breath out. Begin by bringing attention to your body as a whole. And begin to notice the feeling of your weight in the body, on the chair, or the floor, wherever you are. Just feel the points of contact below you. And as we breathe, notice how your chest and abdomen expand to allow the air to enter your lungs. Feel the sensations. What sensations are you aware of? And as you exhale, bring awareness to the stillness and notice the sense of relaxing more deeply. Simply begin to settle into your body. Now let's begin by bringing to attention to the tip of our head, the very top. Noticing any sensations on the scalp, down the back of the head, to the sides, into the face. Noticing any tension in your jaw, particularly your jaw. We hold a lot of tension there. Noticing whatever your tongue's doing. Just allowing your face to be soft. Relaxing the muscles around your eyes and your mouth. Settling in. And breathing in. Breathing out. Feeling the progressive relaxation throughout your head. Now begin to notice your neck and your throat. Let them be soft. Now begin gently shifting your attention, noticing your shoulders and your arms, feeling any sensation and allowing the tension to move. Slowly moving from your shoulders down to your upper arms, to the elbows, your forearms and wrists, hands and fingers. Just feeling the tension flowing through your arms and out your fingertips. Maybe noticing any tightness or temperature sensations. Noticing what the fabric of your clothing feels like against your skin. Continuing to breathe in and breathe out. Now bring attention to your chest and abdomen. Feeling the movement in your chest as you breathe. Bringing your attention to your stomach. Noticing if your stomach is tense or tight. And just letting the tension soften. Soft belly. Gentle belly. Now, noticing your upper back and lower back. If you're holding any tension, also letting that release. returning towards any sensations, anything you may be feeling. Simply allowing any tension to release. Good. Now continuing to travel down to your legs, to your thighs, to your knees, to your calves and shins, your ankles, and finally bringing attention to your feet. Really noticing your feet. Maybe they're placed against the ground or rested somewhere. Noticing any weight, any sense of temperature you may be feeling. Perhaps a feeling of energy present in the feet. Tuning in to the sensations in our feet. And as we continue breathing in and breathing out, now noticing the whole body breathing. From the top of your head all the way down to your toes. Staying with the sense of your whole body breathing for a few more breaths. Whenever the mind wanders, greeting it with a smile, and gently returning it again to the sensation of your whole body breathing. And holding on to that sensation for a couple more breaths. And as we close, continue remaining aware of your body as best you can. And as we finish, with a full, deep breath in, and a long, deep breath out. Thank you. Lovely. So thank you all for participating in that body scan. That was a fairly, it was about 10 minutes, so it wasn't a very long one. It wasn't particularly in-depth one. They certainly vary. But that's kind of the beauty of various body scans, is their variability. You know, you can body scan yourself in 2 seconds. You can do it in 2 minutes. You can do it in 20 minutes. You can do it in an hour. You can kind of add it in a combination with another practice. I like to do a body scan, and as I scan through my body, I like to pretend as if I'm smiling to each body part. So it's kind of a really good building block to kind of utilize in your mindfulness practice and in all of our mindfulness practices. So lastly, we'll be ending our class with the following koan, a well-known koan called Joshu's Moo. A monk asked Joshu, a wise Zen master, "Has the dog the Buddha nature?" And Joshu answered, "Moo." And to kind of explain this a little bit, in the Buddhist paradigm, all sentient creatures will have the Buddha nature, and even more so, some animals such as like a dog, which seems inherently happy, would be even more inherently of that Buddha nature, perhaps one might say. So for Joshu to answer "Moo," which translates to no, that is quite a conceptually jarring response. So that's the thought to process for today, and we will discuss it tomorrow. So thank you all again for tuning in. So deeply and humbly appreciated. It is an honor and pleasure every time. Best ventures till next time. Much love. Take it easy. All the best.